I'd like to request a motion and a second to call to order the May 8th, 2014 meeting of the Sunny May Mortgage Insurance Committee. The motion and second recorded will be used for all action items before the committee unless specific items call for a different vote or unless any committee member wishes to record his or her vote differently. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
The minutes of the meeting of the Mortgage Insurance Committee held on April 10, 2014 shall be deemed approved absent corrections from the directors.
We'll now move to the program action items. Item number 2 in your works is a resolution recommending the approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a $17.27 million HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Canberra Gardens, Phase 2, 560 Winthrop Street in Brooklyn. Mr. Give us a little more background.
This comprises construction of 293 all low-income units in the East Flatbush section of Brooklyn on the campus of Kings County Hospital. Of the 293 units, 182 will have Section 8 vouchers. It's a very heavily subsidized project. There's almost $39 million in low-income housing tax credits, almost $23 million from HPD Supportive Housing Loan Program, another $6.6 million from the Homeless Housing Assistance Corporation, and $4.3 million in HCR Medicaid Redesign Team subsidy, an additional $2 million in Resolution A funds. The project sponsor and the operator of the supportive housing units is CAMBA, the Church Avenue Merchants Block Association, which is an experienced and well-regarded developer of affordable housing and the provider of supportive housing services. The loan amount is only $59,000 per unit, which equals 18% of the project's total development cost of $328,000 per unit. So this is a fairly efficient project. And the project would break even with an 11% increase in pro forma operating expenses or an 11% vacancy rate. And this is the second phase of project. HFA financed the first phase, and we insured the loan on the first phase as well.
How large is that loan on the first phase? Do you remember, roughly?
I think about $15 million.
Questions, comments?
I think it's a great project. I'm going to recuse myself from the vote since the investment company Enterprise is the syndicator on this deal.
Marge, okay? Everyone good? Yes.
I think
Okay.
it's a great project.
Yeah, I agree. Good, very good project.
And the resolution before the committee is recommending approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for Canberra Gardens Phase 2, 560 Winthrop Avenue, Kings County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion is carried.
The next resolution approves 100% mortgage insurance on a $3.5 million HFA permanent first mortgage loan for the Cove on the Concourse, 1020 Carroll Place in the Bronx. Mike?
This is a similar project. It is also a partially supportive housing project, which has Medicaid Redesign Team subsidy money. There will be 21 low-income units, 15 supportive housing units, and 13 moderate-income units, whose tenants can have incomes up to 90% of the AMI. In addition to the insured first mortgage, there's $3 million from HPD, $1.9 million from HCR's Medicaid Redesign Team, $1.5 million from Homes for Working Family, and $1 million from the Bronx Borough President Resolution A grant, and $8 million in both state and federal low-income housing tax credits. A not-for-profit, the Association for Rehabilitative Case Management and Housing, will master lease 15 of the units, and the New York State Office of Mental Health will provide rent subsidies for the difference between SSI rents and low-income housing tax credit rents. So OMH will provide an annual subsidy of approximately $132,000 per annum in rental income. The loan amount is $70,000 per unit, which equals 17% of the project's total cost of $409,000 per unit. And the project would break even with an 11% increase in pro forma operating expenses or a vacancy rate of 11%. And this is another Medicaid redesign team project.
First time I think I've seen laundry in as a income and a loss. 10% loss on the laundry? I don't understand it.
You mean a vacancy on laundry? I think the assumption is that if the units are vacant, that
They don't
they don't use
maximize.
the laundry.
Right.
Conservative underwriting.
Yes.
Questions, comments?
No, again, I really am very impressed with both of these projects.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
me
I
too.
love the fact that we got the mixture of tenants is, I think, is very important and good.
I will say, I'm also delighted to see that NYSERDA is in on both of these,
Yeah.
which means that they're going to be energy efficient, which is
Yeah.
really important to me.
Good, Mark?
Okay. The resolution before the committee is for approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for the Cove on the Concourse, 1020 Carroll Place, Bronx County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion is carried.
Our next resolution approves 100% mortgage insurance on a $5.5 million LIIF permanent first mortgage loan for PS 186 Boys and Girls Club of Harlem Apartments, 521 West 145th Street in the Bronx. Mike?
This is a neat project. It involves the historic readaptation of an old public school into 79 mixed income units. Of the 79 units, 63 are low income, 7 are mod income with eligibility up to 125% of AMI, and 8 are middle income housing with no income restriction. In addition to the insured first mortgage, there's $4 million in Resolution A money, there's $2.9 million in HPD subsidy, and $31.5 million in both federal historic and low-income housing tax credits. This is a very expensive project. The loan amount is only $70,000 per unit, but it equals just 12% of the project's total development cost of $584,000 per unit. The project would break even with an 11% vacancy rate or an 11% increase in pro forma operating expenses. And the development entity is comprised of Monadnock and Alembic, both experienced developers of affordable housing. Monadnock is the developer of the Nehemiah houses, which were approved by the board earlier this year.
Must be, these apartments will be interesting after,
Yeah, they should be really neat.
They should be,
Yeah. They have high ceilings and big windows.
yeah, big windows. It's fabulous.
Yeah, and that's why the cost
That's why it's so
higher,
expensive.
Because
Right.
it's just, an adaptive reuse.
Yeah.
But I love the income mix and
Yeah.
that.
You can see in Exhibit
I do
E
too.
that it's a really neat building, separate wings. There's lots of windows.
Yeah, no, it'd be terrific.
It's very much like a building we did in Fort Washington. But that is a senior building, and what is wonderful about this is the combination, again, of the tenants and the fact that the Boys and Girls Club is
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I
they're
agree.
involved. This is a great mix. Great mix.
Okay.
Thoughts, comments? Hearing none?
The resolution before the committee is for approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for PS 186 Boys and Girls Club of Harlem Apartments, 521 West 145th Street, New York County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion is carried.
Our next resolution approves 100% mortgage insurance on a 2.72 million J.P. Morgan Chase permanent first mortgage loan for 1490 Cortona Park East in the Bronx. Mike?
This comprises 100% insurance of a $2.7 million loan for the development and rehab of 39 all low-income units. There's a a HAP contract covering 31 of the units, and in addition to the insured first mortgage, there's a $386,000 HPD subsidy loan and $6.2 million in federal low-income housing tax credits. And the developer is Mid-Bronx Desperados, an experienced developer of low-income housing. The insured loan amount is $70,000 per unit, which equals 24% of the project's development cost of $289,000 per unit. And the project would break even with a pro forma 12% vacancy rate or an 11% increase in operating expenses.
Questions, comments? Marge? Everybody good?
Good.
Good.
The resolution before the committee is for approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for 1490 Crotona Park East, Bronx County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
And the motion is carried.
Item number 6, our next resolution approves 100% mortgage insurance on a $5.1 million CPC permanent first mortgage loan for 260 to 264 West 153rd Street in Manhattan. Mike?
This comprises construction of 51 all low-income units and 10,000 square feet of community space. And there'll be a Section 8 HAP contract covering 8 of the units. In addition to the insured first mortgage, there's $1 million HPD subsidy loan and $13.9 million in federal low-income housing tax credits. And these credits are HCR credits. The credits in the previous loans were HPD credits. The development entity is L&M, a well-known and well-regarded developer of affordable housing, and a repeat HFA and CPC and Sunny Mae borrower. And our total exposure to MOLIS, inclusive of this loan, will be $69 million, as shown in Exhibit E. But we've started insuring loans to MOLIS as early as 2002. So there's a 12-year relationship.
That $69 million is what percentage-wise? That's just give us a perspective on that.
Our total risk in force is about $2.6 billion. About 2%, a little over 2% of our total risk. So I think it's
It would be
manageable.
really interesting at some point to just see concentration, I'm not worried about us getting to the limit, but I'd love to see maybe even the top 10 and what
Okay.
percentage that is, just for our information.
Actually make it top 25.
Pardon?
You make the top 25? Can you do that without much problem? Oh, so?
Yes.
Not on the lender, but,
No,
you
the
know,
developer, borrower.
yeah,
Sure.
the borrower.
Yes. The loan amount is $100,000 per residential unit, which is relatively high, and this equals 24% of the project's total development cost of $424,000 per unit. Commercial income comprises about 33% of the total income here, and as a consequence, L&M will master lease the commercial space as a backstop to what they anticipate will be a daycare center lease.
That's at a
Mike,
much
this is
lower
just
interest rate than the
Margins.
others. Mike,
Oh, this,
Mike.
they, I don't know if it's better to be smart or
well-
lucky, but they purchased a forward commitment from the New York City Employees Retirement Fund about 18 months ago and locked in this very low rate.
Sounds smart.
Yeah.
As opposed to...
Yeah.
Mike, I have no agenda here, I just don't know. Tell me about HCCI, because they had gone through some changes, right?
Yes.
Can you just tell me what's going on with them?
They have new executive director, they have new management. We actually insure a number of CPC loans to HCCI. They brought in new management, new board of directors, and they're refinancing a number of their projects.
And I know with L&M they'll be very well wrapped, so I just was curious.
Questions, comments? Okay.
The resolution before the committee is for approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment therefore for 260 to 264 West 153rd Street, New York County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried.
Our next resolution approves 100% mortgage insurance on a $2.9 million CPC permanent first mortgage loan for Brook Avenue Apartments, 463 and 469 East 147th Street in Bronx. Mike?
This comprises construction of 66 all low-income units. Bless you. In addition to the insured first mortgage, there's a $2.8 million HPD subsidy loan, $1 million to Resolution A loan, and $16.7 million in federal low-income housing tax credits. The development entity, UCO, is owned by Raymond and Catherine Yu, and this is the second loan that at least the second loan we have insured for projects owned by UCO. There was one on the agenda last month. The insured loan amount is only $44,000 per unit, which equals 12% of the project's total development cost of $367,000 per unit. And the project would break even with a 10% vacancy rate or an 8% increase in pro forma operating expenses. Would also break even with all of the commercial space vacant.
Thoughts, comments? Good. No.
The resolution before the committee is for approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment therefore for Brook Avenue Apartments, 463 and 469 East 147th Street, Bronx County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion is carried.
Our last resolution for today is approves 100% mortgage insurance on a $2.4 million CPC permanent first mortgage loan for 209 South 2nd Street in Brooklyn. Mike?
This comprises rehab of 35 units. This is not a tax credit project. It's an existing project owned by Losaurus. And in addition to the insured first mortgage, there'll be a $3.3 million HPD second mortgage and an HPD regulatory agreement, which will limit tenant eligibility to 60% of the AMI, although rents are affordable at about 50% of the AMI.
Is this a PLP?
It is. The insured loan amount is only $69,000 per unit, which equals 42% of the project's total development cost of $163,000 per unit. And the project would break even with a 10% increase in pro forma operating expenses or a 13% vacancy rate. The developer is Losaurus, and this will be the third loan that we have insured for them. And our aggregate exposure for the three loans is about $10 million. And in this case, there is a substantial amount of commercial income, and we're going to require as a condition precedent to insurance that they capitalize a $17,000 operating reserve, which is equal to 6 months of the deficit with the largest commercial space vacant.
Is there any history of, what's the commercial rental history?
The history is good, and it's a good area. It's in the part of Williamsburg just north of the Williamsburg Bridge. So south of Grand Street, but north of the bridge.
Will there be new tenants?
It's Williamsburg. It's Williamsburg, but it's south of the sort of hip part of Williamsburg.
So there are existing tenants you might renew and stay?
Yes,
or
the space is fully occupied. The commercial space is fully occupied.
So they expect the tenancy to stay the same?
Yes. Yes.
The area right now is red hot.
Yeah. Losaurus was there before it was hot.
All right, questions, comments, anything else? It's all good.
The resolution before the committee is for approval of mortgage insurance and a commitment for 209 South Second Street, Kings County. Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried.
Our last item is an information item on our surcharge collections. I noticed, Mike, that it's down substantially, not only the last month, but the last year. And any trend or thought there?
Actually, this
It's-
April, and it's back up in April. It's not in the, we didn't get the number until after the book had been published, but it's back up to 15 million.
But it's not down for the year, though.
No, but it's down for the month.
Month.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
just-
down to last year also. If you
Yeah.
look at last year's,
Sliding
Oh,
right.
just the month from
Yeah.
month to month.
Month to
last
month,
year.
yeah.
I got it.
It's interesting, and you wouldn't think there'd be that much seasonality, but March always seems to be lower than February, and then it goes back up again in April. If
yeah,
you look at the last
consistent.
3 years.
Yeah.
This is lower than we we anticipated it being.
What,
But
the April number was back to where?
Back up to almost 15 million. So I think it's just seasonality.
Wow.
Well, it was the winter. It affected a lot of financial expectations.
Good. All right, so there are no other business items. We'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Assuming the first and second previously entered, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the meeting is adjourned.
Right.